Hey everyone, in this video we are going to talk about making a brand new command-based project, alright? So the first thing that you're going to want to do is open a new window in VS Code, and if you're not familiar with how to do that, you can just hit Control-Shift-N, or you can go to File, and then New Window, alright? Now in this new window, go ahead and open the WPILib command palette, and then you're going to go and type in new, alright? We're going to create a new project, kind of just like before in the tutorial we did before, alright? Now, the big difference with the project that we're about to make is first of all, it's going to be the way you're going to make future projects, alright? Second of all, it's going to contain some template code that we're going to sort of analyze, alright? So the first thing you want to do is select a project type. You're going to do template, we're going to do Java, and then command robot, just as basic command robot, alright? Now I'm just going to select a project folder. For now, I'll just choose my GitHub folder because that's the one I'm most familiar with in terms of my FRC code. Alright, and then let's just call this sample, or I'm going to call this command-based project. You can call it whatever you want, and of course, team number 1923 for us. Generate the project. We're going to do it in the current window. Okay, and then here we go, right? It's going to start building. I'll do all the generating stuff, sort of standard stuff that we're used to seeing, right? Now, the main thing you're going to want to direct your attention towards is this source, Java, and then these two new folders that have appeared. One is labeled for subsystems, the other is labeled for commands, right? So if we go ahead and access this subsystem folder, we see an example subsystem. So let's open this. And we can kind of see the layout of this example subsystem, right? So the first thing you're going to want to notice is that there's a constructor, right? And so this is kind of where you're going to do your motor configurations, all right? So let me sort of give you sort of an idea of where everything goes with code comments, and then when we actually start writing subsystems, you'll be more familiar, all right? So this is the top of the class, all right? So let me go ahead and label that top of class, all right? And then this is where your motor initializations are going to go. Okay, so I'll also preface this by saying motor/sensors, all right, because we can use some sensors in here, which we'll talk about in future videos. Now, inside the constructor, you can kind of think of this as your initialized function, all right? So this is where you will initialize, or rather, I shouldn't say initialize, right? I should say set up your motors. So think factory default, all right? Okay. Now, here's just an example command. Don't worry so much about it, but really the main idea is this is after the constructor. Remove that S real quick, okay. And then here is where you're going to put your setter methods, right? So, setting the motor to a specific percent output, this is where you're going to put the methods for those. So set methods. Okay. And then, of course, here at the bottom, we have our periodic, which, again, is just going to be a 20 millisecond loop. We also have simulation periodic, but we're not going to worry too much about that for now. We're just going to focus on this periodic aspect, all right? Okay, so that's sort of the example subsystem annotated. Now let's go into the example command. Oops. Okay. So here we have this example subsystem. We see it declared, right? It's not initialized. This is a declaration, right? So keep that in mind. There's a difference. Okay, so let's do subsystem declared at top of class. All right. And then inside the constructor for the example command, we take in an instance of a subsystem, and then we use this function called add requirements, right? This add requirements will make this subsystem exclusive to the command, right? So in other words, right, add requirements will ensure that only this command can control the subsystem, right? Because remember way back when I talked about, what is important about a command. The idea is that multiple commands can control a subsystem, right? So when you do add requirements, you want to make sure that in this moment, when this command is scheduled, right, in the command scheduler, when it's scheduled, when it's its turn to run, that only this command can actually do stuff with the subsystem. Add requirements basically makes it exclusive to the command. All right, that's basically what's happening. And this is sort of exactly what you'll be doing when you make your future subsystems. All right, you're gonna do an initialization here based on what gets passed into the constructor, and then you add requirements. All right, then we have our other methods that we sort of talked about. By default, isFinish returns false. Your command will never finish. Now, something to keep in mind, however, is where button bindings come into play. So if we go to robot container, we can see the example subsystem is initialized here, right? This is the only place, right? This is the only place where the subsystem is initialized, all right? So that's something you need to keep in mind, all right? Here we have an Xbox controller initialized. This is a command Xbox controller. All right, so that's something to keep in mind. And then here we have a method called configure bindings, where we make a new trigger, and this trigger, while on true, right, when the button is pressed, will run our example command. Now, something to keep in mind, right, is when the button state is false, right? So maybe when you've let go of a button, or when you've let go of your while held, or you hit the opposite button on a toggle, that will override the is finished, and it'll force the command to end. So when you're not actively pressing the button for a command, it will not run unless it is a default command, all right? So there are two different types of commands, and we're gonna get more into the weeds of this as we go into state managed systems, but something to keep in mind is that if it's not a default command, like if you're not doing subsystem.setDefault command, if you're just doing something like this, where you're saying, okay, on this button, I want this command to run, when you're doing something like this, well, when you're not actively pressing that button, the command will not run. So regardless of whatever is in isFinish, the command will not run, all right? So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, lastly, the one thing I want to show you, we're going to ignore the autos for now. The one thing I want to show you is robot.java. Again, here's the robot container, and then here is where it gets initialized, all right? So that about wraps up the content that I have for this video. I look forward to seeing you in a future video. And in the next video, you can look forward to actually starting to write your own subsystem and command. So thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.